It is the morning sports desk on a Monday, the 1st of July. I'm CJ. That's Corey. Corey, happy Bobby Bonilla Day to all those who observe.
Happy Bobby Bonilla Day. Do you know the details of Bobby Bonilla Day?
No, Corey. Could you explain it to me and the folks at home?
Boy, would I love to, CJ. He hasn't played since 2001. 23 years ago.
Yes.
Until July 1st of 2035, every July 1st, he receives a check for $1,193,238.20.
Wow.
It is a $5.9 million contract that, once you include interest and deferments and whatever, is turned into a $30 million deal for Bobby Bonilla, who hasn't played now in 23 years.
What great foresight by him, because the Mets just didn't want to buy out his contract. What great foresight to be fine. Pay me $1 million a year every year for like 30 years. Just
great by his agent, by the way, also, who gets to snag whatever his percentage is on this every single year. Also, like just everything. I don't have anybody in my life who will look out for me as much as that agent looked out for Bobby Bonilla.
Well, here's the thing. It's not just Bobby Bonilla. It's the fact of that there's a couple other cases like this in Major League Baseball too. The Nats right now, the Washington Nationals are paying $15 million to Max Scherzer. Ken Griffey Jr. is still like the second highest paid player on the Reds. He's making $3.59 million.
No kidding.
Manny Ramirez gets $1.96 million from the Red Sox. It's insane.
It's insane. But none of this happens without Bobby Bonilla.
He's the great patron saint of doing all this. So, all right.
Good job. Congratulations, Bobby Bo.
Congratulations, Bobby Bonilla. We got a lot to talk about here on the sports desk today as we get ready for some big July festivities. It's kind of a dead point in Minnesota sports. So I think it's a big deal that we do a little bit of a vibe check, and that means we get to pull this nice little number out.
Vibes? You know about vibes?
Vibe check. Vibe check.
Oh, yeah.
Put out the vibe, Corey. Let's start out with the Minnesota Twins. They've won another series coming up with the they won with the Arizona Diamondbacks. They won with the Oakland Athletics. And then most recently over the first place Seattle Mariners. Corey, what's the vibe with the Minnesota Twins? And by the way, Carlos Correa and Royce Lewis also having great months. Byron Buxton heating up.
So this is how do I put this? There's 6 games back at Cleveland in first place.
Yes.
But everything that I have learned about the Minnesota Twins, I have learned today basically from you right now. Because I was off for the last week and I didn't pay attention to anything. As a matter of fact, I didn't know that something was going on, like NBA draft-wise even, until the day it was on. So, like, I'm just kind of a little off. Plus, it's been 5 full weeks since you and I have done anything together as far as the morning sports desk goes.
Right.
So, my vibe check on the Twins is,
Yeah. Oh, you want to? I'm gonna say you want to vibe. I'm gonna say you want to vibe.
I want to vibe.
I want to vibe.
I want to vibe. Yes,
there you go.
I want to vibe. I just don't know.
Vibe check right now for the other ones. I'm gonna take a step out. Just keep going.
Okay. So I just don't know. I don't know where the Twins are at right now. Basically, I know they're 6 games out of first place. I know it's like 4 or 5, and all those things that CJ said are important. And Royce has been good. Correa's been good. Buxton is starting to come around a little bit. He hit an unbelievable shot the other night to straightaway center field that he hit, like, I don't know, what was it, a quarter of a mile or something like that. It seems like Pablo has started to really turn a corner on the season, which is important. But again, I don't know much of the details on what the Twins are doing right now, because I totally and completely and mentally checked out for my the last week being on vacation. Elsewhere, where else do we want to vibe check? Oh, we want to vibe check the Minnesota Wild. Yeah, the cup's over. Let's just move on. They're in purgatory, I think, for one more season, are the Minnesota Wild. So I don't have anything really like that educational to say about the Minnesota Wild, other than like, looking forward to, can Kaprizov make the next move? Who else do we have to vibe check? The Minnesota Lynx are like rock solid. What are they? 3 losses on the season. Number 2, number 3 team, I think, in the entire WNBA. They're great. They're cruising right along, with basically people you can't name. So the thing about those Lynx teams of the past is there was always like, you could say Maya Moore, you could say Simone Augustus, you could say Sylvia Fowles, you could say Lindsay Whalen. Those are like names even casual fans would be willing to throw out there. They'd be like, oh yeah, you could at least come to Lindsay Whalen. You know what I mean? Name someone on this Minnesota Lynx team. I think for most people you can't. Nafisa Collier, an all-star, she's quite good. It's just kind of like a team of everything I say about them is just going to sound offensive, but it's a team of nobody. Like, we don't know who they are, but they just keep winning. They've got like a special team unit going on, which is pretty cool. I want to save my Timberwolves talk until CJ comes back, because I do have a point I want to make about the Timberwolves and about the draft, because I know that needs to be talked about a little bit, and as we vibe check them. There's a vibe check on the Vikings. Are we to that point yet where we can feel like we need to vibe check closing in on? Are we?
Why don't you vibe check the Vikings quick?
Is there a vibe check on the Vikings right now? Because
talked about in a while. Just kind of, how do you feel like now about JJ McCarthy and about Sam Darnold? Like, how do you feel just kind of about this whole post Kirk Cousins era?
CJ, you're setting up. I don't care at all. Like, I haven't thought about them at all. Like, it's just in this.
Your vibe. There you go.
It's not that I'm void of a vibe. I don't. The vibes aren't good. The vibes aren't bad. The vibes aren't neutral. There's no vibe on the Vikings for me right now. There are vibes on the Timberwolves. Can we do this Timberwolves thing? I'm sure you did with Zeke the other day, but there's an important part of this that I think is important and I think is being missed.
Okay. For
2 entire months, everyone couldn't wait to tell you how bad this draft was.
Yep.
This NBA draft. Like, best case scenario was the number 1 pick in this year's draft would maybe go like number 8 in a regular draft.
Mm-hmm.
Even worse than that if it was a good draft.
Yeah.
So being told that for 2 straight months, and then having Timberwolves, everyone be like, the ultimate winners of this draft are your Minnesota Timberwolves, because they moved up to number 8 and got themselves a lottery pick. I'm excited for the guy. There's a loophole, but I would be excited for anybody that they pick, because I'm a huge homer. Would you be excited about the Timberwolves moving up to get the 16th pick in the draft? Literally never. No one would ever be excited. Like, why? I just don't get the hype around a guy who is the 8th pick in what was considered, coming into this draft, one of the worst drafts of all time. What's the
all time?
Why are we I mean, we won't know for sure if it is,
but like, just like coming in, like
there was not a single good thing about it. Like, the
right.
best case scenario,
there's no, like, consensus number 1 overall pick. Even there's no like, it's this guy and then
The best story I heard was the big guy for UConn.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that guy could be a rotational guy for the next decade.
Yeah.
That was the best case scenario in this whole draft. And now I'm supposed to like blow boogers out of my nose because I can't believe what the Timberwolves did to move up to get this 8th pick for a guy who's like, I don't know, man. I just don't. I'm excited for him, and I think that he fits the profile for what this Timberwolves team needs for sure. I don't want to say what this could become nice.
Right.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, can we slow our roll on some of this draft talk and nonsense? Because this draft was supposed to be pretty bad.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything you're saying. Like, I understand your points. I am not disagreeing with you. Let me talk you off the ledge a little bit.
There's no ledge. I am talking people off the ledge of overblowing this.
Sure.
Result.
Let's find the middle ground. I think that maybe I think overall I think it's the exciting part is the fact that they traded up because they felt like there's a player that really fit what they wanted to do, because it's not like the Wolves are trading up for star power, right? Like they already have Towns, they already have Gobert, they already have Edwards. Like they already have those guys. What they're trading up for, and I'm sure you've mentioned this already, is that loophole of like, we're not going to be able to go get a free agent. So how can we find a guy that pieces together in our roster? Because they don't have salary cap space. And for good, bad, or otherwise, this is going to be how they're going to have to fix their roster. And so they don't have a ton of draft picks either. So they can't really do this every year. But they felt like it was a good time to just get a guy that they could plug and play in their system. Now he's 19 years old. So I don't know how quickly that plug and play is going to work. But I think the best case scenario is if they feel like they have a guy who they can get into their system and kind of groom him into a role while all this, like he's not coming in and asking to be like, all right, man, you got to be the guy who pairs with Edwards for years to come. You just got to be a nice piece on this roster. And I think if that's the expectation going in, then I think I'm pretty good. Now, he's a lottery pick. Maybe you could say the expectation should be higher regardless, but that's kind of where I'm at. I'm not like over the moon about this draft, but I think there's a nice player to be had.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine. But we're talking about a guy who's going to be, well, let's just do it. Starting lineup's going to be the same.
Yes.
Next year, right?
Yeah.
Until we hear something different. But the starting lineup's going to be the same next year.
Nas is coming right off the bench. That's the same.
Nas, your sixth man. He's the sixth man of the year. He's the first guy off the bench. Anderson is probably not coming back, right?
No Anderson or no McLaughlin. Luka Garza, 2-year deal. He's coming back.
Correct. Is the ham bone? What's this nickname? Do we have a nickname for this guy?
For
Dilly.
No, I don't know if we have one for Dillingham.
He's not beating Nickeil Alexander-Walker off the bench. He's not beating who else? He's best case scenario. He's your eighth man. You're right. You're right, CJ. He fits the like. This is a team that with Gobert is set to win right now. And the Gobert trade, if we want to go back even farther with this, the Gobert trade was put in place so that way we could bridge the gap between Anthony Edwards not being ready and being ready. So if we put everything into that light, like you were talking about, we go from not being ready to being ready with Anthony Edwards. It's also going to help bridge the gap with Dillingham, and it's going to allow him some time to ease into that role. Could he be a guy who helps lead a second team? And I heard him described as a bona fide bucket. I heard him described as if he were 6'4", 6'5", he would have been the consensus number one pick in the draft. All of that's fine, and all of that's great. And I understand the long game that needs to be played by the Timberwolves in this scenario, and his resume fits that. The Timberwolves also we're in the Western Conference Finals. And that's just not. I just don't know how this guy is going to immediately notch in and just be a difference maker. Now, that's not his fault. I should also justify all of this and say this is not. He's a rookie coming into a really good team. This is a perfect scenario for him, and he's not meant to come in and be the difference maker. He's meant to come in and just kind of fill a role for the time being. So. That's not any of his fault. I guess what I have, my biggest problem with all of this is the reaction to the draft, the immediacy of the recency bias of what happened in this draft. I just don't have a lot of patience for the talk around it. Like, oh my goodness gracious, did you see what the Timberwolves did? The Timberwolves went A+. Yeah, A+ on a curve. This draft was supposed to be bad. It just wasn't supposed to be very good. And because of that, they got the 8th overall pick, but in a year ago, Dillingham goes in the top 25. Well, are you excited about a 22nd overall pick? Probably not. I know I certainly don't always get my hopes up for that. You want me to talk myself out of this? Well, I can do that too. The last time the draft was not supposed to be very good, the Timberwolves drafted Anthony Edwards. That's worked out. There were some extenuating circumstances with that draft. There was some COVID stuff. Players weren't allowed to work out in person. There's a lot of things that happened over Zoom. There were a lot of interviews. There was a lot of, you just had to take people at their word rather than see things in person. Plus, this is important. Anthony Edwards was taken number 1. He was taken number 1. There's a big difference between being taken number 1 and hoping somebody moves up to take you at 8. You know what I mean? So there's the give and take in all of this that I guess I believe is an important distinction in everything. So anyway, that's a lot of circling around. I like the pick. I think it was an appropriate pick. I think it was a guy who is, as this 8th or 9th player on this roster, can come in, knock down some shots, get to the rack, create for other people, be that bona fide bucket as he was described. There's certainly a place for that on this roster, and it's going to be important. I don't like the kind of the talk around it. I think it's all very overstated, but that's, I operate, it doesn't matter the sport. I operate then. Can we just slow our roll on just about everything? The Twins have won 4 of 5. Cool. Good for them. They're still 6 games back. That's a long ways to go. And we are in July now, which means that move, winning 4 out of 5 is helpful, but that move needs to officially be happening or beginning. You're to that point of the season now where things you can't afford to lose 4 out of 5 anymore. That just can't be happening. Or again, for the Twins, you can't be winners of 4 or 5 and then lose 4 out of 5. You have to, your winning streaks have to be longer than your losing streaks. You have to get out of things a little quicker. You have to out of the bad things a little quicker. You got to stay in the good things a little longer. For the Vikings, I don't have. Can we just slow our roll on everything when it comes to JJ McCarthy? Let's afford that kid some patience. He earned the right to be drafted where he was. Can we just slow our roll on these conversations and not blow everything out of proportion? The Twins panic. It's not even we have to set our expectations way too high. Bipolarness of it. It's not just panic and depression. It's the manic part of it too that I don't appreciate. The manic of the Timberwolves talk. I don't appreciate the was JJ worth it if he's not gonna end up starting week 1? Is it we just need to hold ourselves back a little bit from those sorts of conversations. And right now, when there's nothing going on, it's really hard. It's much easier to have a till death do us part sort of conviction in these sports conversations when we literally don't know anything that's going on. Right. Exactly. So I think that'll do it for the vibe check. Let's move on here to recap, Corey. I think are you vibing with the Wolves just for the sound bite, just for the buzz, for this? Wolves, not because of Dillingham, because they were in the Western Conference Finals and they're really good. I vibe with the Wolves as long as Anthony Edwards is playing for them. It's the vibe we love. It's the vibe we love. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that's why we should be excited, not so much because of anything with the draft. Right. I don't know. I'm just repeating myself. Dillingham's going to fit in just fine. The conversation around him is annoying. Yeah. Well, it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate. All right. Your Minnesota Lynx. I heard you. What's your vibe on that? The Lynx are good.
It's the vibe I love.
All right, recapping on Twins.
Name 2 players on the Minnesota Lynx.
What?
Name 2 players on the Minnesota Lynx.
Collier and I always want
Collier.
Collier, right?
Nafisa Collier. Yep.
Nafisa Collier. And
Yep, exactly.
their first round draft pick, I keep forgetting her name because I'm going to butcher it.
Yep.
They drafted her out of UCLA. She was like the center. But yeah, I mean.
Yeah, Peely,
there you go.
And they've got McBride.
Yes.
And they've got a girl named like Dorka or something.
And they're 14-4.
You can't name any of their players, and they're the number 2 or 3 team in the entire WNBA right now. They cannot lose.
Great.
Playing such good basketball, and nobody knows who they are.
It helps when you have Cheryl Reeve running your operation. You can do a lot of great stuff.
It does. It turns out they're a very good team. They're a true team and not an individually led basketball program.
Exactly. All right. And the Vikings, I'm going to say,
I want to vibe.
I'm going to put you at that because, we'll see.
Yeah.
Because it's either that or it's like,
Well, the vibes are wrong.
And I don't think the vibes are wrong.
No, the vibes just don't exist.
It's indefinite. That's inconclusive. There's the word. All right. Let's move on. That concludes our vibe check.
Vibes? You know about vibes?
Vibe check. Vibe check.
Put out the vibe.
We just haven't gotten to use that in a while. I just really want to use that.
Put out the vibe.
Put out the vibe. Okay. So moving on, Amateur Hour, of course, is something that you can find at WadenaRadio.com, the Superstation K106 mobile app. That's a big write-up of recapping every single weekend's action and also previewing each weekend's action. I don't want to dive too much into it because you can go check it out there. But Corey, why don't we check out the standings in the High 10 and Lake and Pine as of July 1st? Because now we enter into the final month of the regular season. First place, according to 14C and High 10, is the Deer Creek Shockers. They are tied with the High 10 lead with the Perham Pirates. So if we're going on the 14C, it's Deer Creek with 11-3 in the region. Then it's Bluffton at 9-2, New York Mills at 9-3, Perham at 8-5, Clarissa at 6-8, Henning at 2-9, Dent at 1-9, and Vergus at 1-10. In the High 10, Deer Creek is ahead with an 8-3 record. Then you have Perham with an 8-3 record as well. Bluffton is 7-2. New York Mills is 6-2. The Clarissa Flyers are 6-6. Henning and Vergus are 1-7. Dent is 0-7 in that region. Looking into the Lake and Pine, which right now only has 4 teams in its current iteration, Midway is 7-0 in Region 14C. Nimrod is 5-2. Sabika is 4-4. Staples is 0-8. In the Lake and Pine, Midway is 2-0. Nimrod is 1-0. Sabika 1-1. Staples 0-3. That's where things currently reside. And if you look at the 14C kind of overall, you have sliding into kind of that 5th spot in the region record-wise is Midway. Right now, there's a lot of teams kind of fighting at the top. There's a lot of I know that record-wise, it might not look like it. Feels like there's been a good amount of parity this year, like a good amount of just teams kind of going back and forth. It's really, really, really fun to see, and we'll kind of monitor things going forward because, believe it or not, amateur baseball playoffs are at the end of the month.
We made it.
It's a really fun time, that region tournament, Deer Creek, Perham, all that great stuff. So we'll talk about that when it gets closer. There's your update. For more information, go to WadenaRadio.com or the Superstation K106 mobile app for Amateur Hour. All right, Corey, I want to bring your attention to this story. It comes courtesy of the Associated Press.
Mm-hmm.
So the U.S. Olympians are getting ready to go to France for the Olympics this year.
I've been watching the trials. I love the Olympics anyway. The trials have been just magnificent so far.
Yeah, trials for the gymnastics taking place at Target Center over the weekend. Me and my in-laws went to Orlando to go see the Olympic qualifiers for the marathon back in February. So a lot of stuff happening here for it. But some Olympians are coming under fire, or should we say coming under cool, because it turns out that the United States Olympians plan on bringing air conditioners to the Olympics, and France is none too happy with it. What's your take, Corey?
Well, why? Why is that? Why are they're bringing air conditioners? Presumably because there's no air conditioning.
Yes.
So why is France not happy with it? I don't understand what's going on.
They're very anti-air conditioner, just due to energy consumption.
Mm.
So that's their thing. I think they're
Europe in general doesn't.
They
You
don't
know, you hear about it every summer. Like, oh my gosh, they're dealing with a heat wave, and they'll tell you it's like 26 degrees Celsius, and then you look it up, and it's 76 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're like, what? Well, it's because they don't. Their stuff is so old. They don't have.
They have brick buildings everywhere.
Yeah, they live in ovens, and these buildings they're 500 years old,
right,
or 1,000 years old. So yeah, they all over Europe, they're not really infrastructured into air conditioning.
The biggest thing I've seen this summer is Europeans have taken pictures of like mini splits or like window units or just kind of like smaller air conditioners, and they're like, all right, Americans bullied me into this, and then like a day later they tweet and they're like, I'm all on board. What have we been missing?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So France being upset about it is not surprising, because what isn't France upset about?
They're upset about anything normal. Yeah,
everything all the time. Their entire being is.
I'm pretty sure there's rioting in the streets right now. I'm not.
They revolt about everything. That's what they're French. That's what they do. So of course they don't like it. There's probably some smelly jokes to be made here also. And it is also, so that's peak Frenchness. Peak Americanness is like, we're bringing our air conditioning. Get off my street.
Bleep you. We're bringing it. It's because we're America.
This is America. I'm an American. I'm bringing my air conditioner.
Say it with me, Corey. I'm proud to be an American where at least I have AC.
It's awesome. Now, yeah, good. Bring all the AC you want, man. Turn it up.
Turn it up. Crank up that Freon. All right. This has been the Morning Sports Desk for July 1st.